I'm Denise Griffitts, and this is your partner in Success Radio. Today, I sit down with Trunnis Goggins to explore the heart of his book, The Four Ps of You, the expanded edition: purpose, passion, planning, and persistence. We talk about how these four pillars can help you move from feeling stuck or scattered to living with greater clarity, intention, and momentum. And this episode is sponsored by Jennifer Jensen. She is a leadership expert focused on authentic growth, clarity, and confidence through actionable development strategies. And the exciting news that I get to share with you today is Trunnis Goggins, the four Ps of you, is now integrated into the Mirror Reflective leadership app, and that is built by Jennifer Jensen, and it's launching soon. I've been watching this with great excitement. It's an exciting step. And now that she's embedding purpose, passion, and persistence and planning into a I can't even talk today. Sorry, Trina's comprehensive digital leadership planner platform. It's time to stay tuned. You can find Jennifer Jensen at authenticleader.ca and on LinkedIn. And back to my guest, Trunnis is an educator. He's a consultant and a veteran who helps people think more intentionally about who they are, where they're going, and how to keep moving forward, again, with clarity and confidence. In this conversation, we're going to talk about the ideas behind, excuse me, his 4P framework. You know why I can't talk, Trunnis? I'm coughing. I'm trying not to cough all over the place.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
We're going to talk about the ideas behind his 4P framework and why it matters more now than ever. Trunnis, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you. And before we get started, can you tell our audience about you and how you like to show up
Yes.
in the world?
Well, hey, yes, my name is Trunnis Goggins. I'm Trunnis Goggins II, named after my father. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I live now in Asheville, North Carolina. So you're coughing. I actually took Flonase before we started because I will be sneezing repeatedly. Now, as we're airing this podcast, we're in the spring, and I sneeze like I'll get out. We have this tree. I have no idea what the name of the tree is, but there's pollen all over the place, and I just sneeze consistently throughout the entire day. So I made sure for this podcast I took a little Flonase. I am a veteran, like you said. I spent 13 years United States Navy, both active and reserve. Um, Greatest time I ever had in my entire life, professionally, as far as camaraderie, all those things. I learned that in the United States Navy. I still have friends. I've been out now for almost 19 years. No, 18 years. And in the time I've been out, I still have people that I talk to. Matter of fact, I talk to some people in the Navy more so than I talk to people that are in my own family. So I get along with them quite well. I'm an educator. Just recently wrote a book, obviously the one we're going to be talking about, The Four Ps of You, and ended up purchasing a sizable portion of my publisher and renaming it to Veritas Publishing House, where we do help people navigate the publishing world. We all know, for people who are looking for books or looking to write books, publishing can have a lot of pitfalls. And so our company's there to kind of fill in those gaps and take care of them.
I've been meaning to ask you about that too, and I'll call you as soon as we're done here because I am almost through writing my book, which is it's going to be on the closures. I don't know if you know who Ben Gay is, Ben Gay the third.
Yes.
You do? Okay, good. He was the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill, and he is known for writing the closers part one and part two, which quite literally are known as the sales Bibles, excuse me, globally. And we have a Wednesday podcast, and he said to me one day, he said, Denise, you're going to write a book. I said, and I got whiny. I said, Ben, I know I've been trying to write a book. It's what I've got right now is an epic blank page. He said, no, you're going to write a book. And he was using a tone with me that he's never used because we're very good friends. He's my mentor.
Mhm.
And I said, okay. And I called him. I said, what do you mean I'm going to write a book? And he just said, you're going to write part four. I went, okay. And then I think I threw up on my own feet. So, it's interesting. But now that I've started writing and talking about it, because it's, podcasting, it's about marketing and podcasting. And the more I get into it, the more I'm like, oh, I have stuff to say. So he saw it before I did.
Absolutely, yes, and that is, it is funny that people who have written books or are around people who write books a lot, they know people who need to write a book, and,
Right.
usually they have a good I don't wanna say a good eye, they have a good something, to pick up people who need to write books and who don't. So, yes, if he said that, knowing where he comes from, obviously he was right by saying that.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to believe him, but I wanted to talk to you at some point about getting it published because that's where I'm stuck.
Mhm.
So anyway, we'll talk about that. So what was happening in your life when the 4P framework first took place? I mean, what was going on that you just knew you had to write it and then expand it?
Have you ever been in a situation, Denise, where everything is going right, but yet you know something's wrong?
Oh, yeah. I'll never
Yeah,
get married
that's it.
again. Does that help?
Well, that does help, and I should have said that 4 times ago, but, 3
Oh,
times ago. But
God.
anyway,
I've done my time. I'm
no,
done.
exactly. I just keep on. I'm like I said, I'm originally from Buffalo. Buffalo is the Buffalo Bills are known for losing 4 Super Bowls in a row. I am actually in a very good marriage now, but it is my fourth one, and the first three were just like the first three Buffalo Bills Super Bowls, quite disastrous. But what I did, everything was going right, when I wrote this book. The only thing that really happened during this time, and it is unfortunate, I did lose my daughter to a homicide in Indianapolis, Indiana.
I'm
It
sorry.
was probably that's thank you very much. It was by far it is by far the worst thing that will ever happen. And you notice I'm speaking even into the future when I say that. There is something, I mean, everything in life you get over. And you can ask any parent, no parent will ever get over that. I don't care at what stage or how or anything else they lost their child, you just can't get over it because it's such an unnatural feeling. But other than that, professionally, everything was going great. I was living in Indianapolis at the time. I was a part of the chancellor's cabinet at the largest community college system in the country. I was doing great. I had a beautiful house. I had my children who were still alive. They were doing great. Everything was going well, as far as that's concerned. Marriage, okay, whatever. But anyway, one day I said to myself, "What am I doing?" And I didn't have an answer. I went and got my PhD. The reason why went to go get my PhD is because I wanted to contribute to my discipline, which was strategic management. The reason why I did all these things, right, was because I wanted to live a life that everybody else lives, the life that we're programmed to live. And so when we're programmed to do something like robots, we do it. We do it methodically, and that's it. No questions asked, nothing. We just do it. And a lot of times in life, we do things and we get to the point where we don't know what we're doing. I kind of equate that to how many times have we driven somewhere and we forgot how we got there? Did we stop at that stoplight? Did we make a left turn? How did we get to? Did we see the person walking down the street? Are you sure? Because we just go into a mode where we are doing everything we're supposed to do. I'm sure we stopped at every stoplight. I'm sure that we turned our turn signal on at every turn. I'm sure that we yielded to the right places to yield and all those other things. But we just did it methodically. We did it robotically, and we had no idea how we got there. And a lot of times we do that. We do that when we drive quite often. I mean, I went to the store a little while ago, and I'm sitting there thinking about it as I'm telling you. How did I get there? So what I started doing is I started thinking about life in a way that did I really do everything I wanted to do? What was my purpose? What was I all about? That coupled with I teach inmates. I still do, always will. I teach inmates in prisons, and I was teaching this class, and the class that I was teaching had 15 individuals who were becoming free men. And so the first day of class, I walk in and I said, "Hey, what are you going to do when you get out of prison?" And so everybody came up with all of these things that they were going to do. They were going to, about four of them said they were going to go to Chick-fil-A. A
It's gonna
couple of them said,
McDonald's.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, no, we're not doing McDonald's. We're doing Chick-fil-A. Then we had a couple say that they couldn't wait to see their one said, he was in prison for 15, 16 years, and he said he's going to be able to give his son a hug for the first time in his life.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and I heard all these things and I'm like, these are great stories. And I'm, a lot of people said they can't wait to go to the park. They can't wait to walk. Some people said, and this is something that people do take for granted. I cannot wait to go to the bathroom by myself with a closed door, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I didn't think about that. So all of these things are going on. And so then they're all happy and everybody was smiling. And I'm listening to all of these things that they're going to do when they get out of prison. And then I stopped after everybody said what they're going to say. I said, okay, now tell me,
What's the plan?
yeah, what are you going to do when you get out of prison? Everybody fell silent.
Mhm.
And I waited, we did that waiting game. A lot of salespeople do that. The whole first person who talks loses, right? Remember that? And that's a sales thing. And so I waited. I did not open my mouth. And then pretty soon I had to because we were going to lose class if I did. And so I said, you know what? If you cannot answer that question, guaranteed you're going to be back here within the next 18 months. Now, every single one of them looked at me. They were kind of troubled. They were kind of mad. A couple said, no, that ain't going to happen, all that other stuff. And so I said, no, this is why you're going to be here because you do not have a plan. Who are you? When was the last time you asked yourself what you wanted in life? When was the last time you pictured what life looks like? And the thing is, it's some part in the book, or there's a couple parts in the book I talk about Forrest Gump. In the very beginning of Forrest Gump, where there's two things in Forrest Gump. I love the movie, so I'm not. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and you think I'm dogging Forrest Gump, don't. If it's on TV, I'm watching it, no doubt about it. But the first part of the movie was a feather that kind of floated aimlessly and it landed at Forrest's feet. He picked it up, and then there you go. There was no control. The wind pushed that feather to an opportunity, and the opportunity was he got to live with Forrest Gump or stay in a book with Forrest Gump or whatever. And it didn't get heaped or thrown in the trash or whatever. The other thing that they said was, "Life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." I
Right.
hate that line,
Yeah,
and
I
the
hate
reason why I
chocolate, so that always makes
uh,
me cringe. I don't eat that
now
stuff.
that gets me. I love chocolate. I'm sorry, but anyway,
We
but
can
but
still be
life is
friends, so it's okay.
I know we can, absolutely. But life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That is a bold-faced lie. You know why? Because if I want to get a box of chocolates right now, and I want to make sure I know exactly what I'm going to get, yes, I'm going to spend a little bit of extra money. I might have to look a little harder, but I'm going to get a box of turtles. And if I get a
Oh,
box of turtles right
with
now, I love
nuts.
turtles with
Right.
nuts. They have I don't know if you're from the north, which I am, it's pecans, and if it's from the south, it's pecan.
It's
Okay, but
pecans.
they
I have
have
3 pecan trees in my backyard. You're talking about the stuff falling down on the ground. You ought to see these. They're bleeding. All this stuff is coming
um
down on the ground
oh I
right
need
now.
some, but yeah, and they have caramel in it and they have chocolate coating. You're good to go. Now you've got exactly what you wanted. You know what you want out of life. Instead of saying that you never know what you're going to get, you're living life by chance. And I don't think anybody should live life by chance because if you do, you're going to be that robot and you're going to realize you're going to have the wind or you're going to have people and you're going to have forces, good or bad, push you into a place where you are laying in your hospital bed. And I watched my father do it. My father was a very successful man, but as he was dying, he was talking about all the regrets. He lived his life for everybody to impress everybody but himself. And that was a very sad thing. And it was something I got to learn at 43 and I got to change my life. I have enough time and I'm living. I mean, I'm now 55, but I'm now living the life that I want to live intentionally and on purpose. So that's where the purpose came from. You've got to have purpose. Okay. And yes, you have to have a plan in order to get to where you're going. And you also, your purpose, you have to feel it has to be your purpose and it has to be something you're passionate about. The reason why I walked away from everything, Denise, I walked away from everything with exception of my children. I made sure everybody was taken care of. I said, hey, you guys can, my ex-wife now, you could stay in the house. This is your house. This is the kids' house. This is everything. I stayed in Indianapolis until my kids graduated high school. And then after that, I made the move to Asheville. But what I did was I said, hey, I've got to start all over again and live the way I need to live. Because if I don't, I'm not going to be worth a darn for any of my children for anyone or anything. And I'm definitely not going to be, I'm not going to be, I'm going to die that old bitter man. I don't want to do that. So you have to have passion in whatever you're doing. And then the next thing, everything I gave up, I had to start all over again at 40, whatever. I think I was 48 at the time. So when you start all over, no, I was younger, maybe 47. I don't know. But anyway, when you start all over, what you have to do is you have to be persistent. You have to realize that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and things are going to go against you. There are going to be things that you're going to lose. There are going to be things that you're going to gain. There are going to be things that you're going to learn from all of that. But you have to be persistent, and you're not going to be persistent if you don't have that passion. I play hockey, love it to death, right? And so here in Asheville, North Carolina, it's not a big hockey city. The only time I could play hockey is roller, which I picked that up just recently. And with there are some times in Asheville, North Carolina, it gets bitterly cold. And if someone says, "Hey, let's go play hockey in the bitter cold or in the extreme heat," because you get both of them here in North Carolina, I will go out and play. I will adjust my uniform or my equipment accordingly to make sure that either I have enough air or whatever, and then I will adjust my uniform accordingly. But if someone told me right now, let's go out and play golf and it's 12 degrees outside, my answer is emphatically no, because I don't like golf. I'm not passionate about golf. I'm not going to go out and play in cold air because it needs to be very, very comfortable for me to do it. And so that's the thing. So that's what you have to do with persistence. So I took all of these plans. These plans can be used for uh, um, your personal life. They can be used for your professional life, but they can be used for you to build a better life.
I have to ask you, Trunnis, and I hear this, people ask me, and I've asked other people, "Do you know what your purpose is?" And honestly, most times the answer is uh, they don't know. I don't know. Half the time I don't know because it does change, but, somebody will say, "Well, Denise, what's your purpose in life?" Beats the batshit out of me, Robin, and I've actually said that.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry about that, but it just kinda comes out, but half the time I'm wondering, "What is my purpose? What am I doing? Who am I serving? How am I showing up?" It gets very confusing.
Mhm. And the way to kind of, and I'm going to say this, take yourself on a date.
Okay, tell me about
No,
that.
seriously. I mean, seriously, because we take, right, when you think about dating, before you make that commitment, before you know if you want to move forward or not move forward, you go out on a couple dates. The first thing you ask is, what do you like to eat? You kind of do the small talk. You get to know that person, right? And then from knowing that person, you kind of envision what life would look like with this person or what life should not look like or whatever, okay? And then you say, "Okay, is this good enough for a second date?" And then you go on that second date maybe. If you don't go on that second date, then you know what's up. And so that's the thing. You need to take yourself out on a date. And that is something where you really do need to say, in anybody's case, like in your case, who is Denise? What does Denise want? What is Denise really, really good at? When Denise comes out to want to leave a legacy and on this earth when she's gone, what does that legacy want? What do you want that legacy to look like? And then that actually will start developing your purpose. You're probably living your purpose. I mean, I've only had 3 or 4 conversations with you, but in those conversations, I can tell by your consistency, you probably already know that purpose, but you've never articulated that purpose yet. But you know it
Yeah,
because
that makes
you
sense.
know,
It does.
and so those are the things that you need to do. You need to get to know because again, we go through. Like, for example, I went and I could tell you exactly, I'm an educator. At one point, I was a part of the chancellor's cabinet. Uh, I was in the administration of a really great college. It still is a great college. I still am associated with it in some shape and form. And, that's who I am. And I could go to any cocktail party. I can do anything in the world and I can say that's who I was. But that really wasn't my purpose. That was my profession. that's what I ended up falling into. And the reason why I fell into that is because I really wasn't staying focused on my purpose. My purpose was as an educator, and like you said, like I said, I was in I went to the prisons and taught at prisons. I did all these things. I was in the Navy. I helped out here. I helped out there. So what that was my purpose. My purpose is when I leave something behind, I want to make not only my children's lives better, I want to make my community better. I want to do things that when I am gone, I really did leave a mark. I'm not saying I need to be Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King or anybody like that. I don't want to leave that type of mark. I don't think I'm number one. I don't have time, and number two, uh, both those guys they left a mark, and I didn't. That didn't end peacefully for either one of them. But on the
No.
same note, I do want to leave an impression behind where, wow, that guy did something good for the world. I want to leave this world better, and I want to leave the world better at what I'm really good at doing, and that's the thing.
And, I told you in the virtual green room, I write down a lot of different things. I'm taking notes the whole time you're talking. And what I wrote is purpose is not your profession. And then I amended it to for the most part,
Exactly.
because
For the
sometimes
most
it
part.
just isn't. Listen, I'm a web developer by trade. I had a computer before literally we could really have access to the internet, but somehow I knew in my gut and my soul that I was going to make a living with my computer, whatever it was going to be, and I do, and I did. I also knew that, and I was a jeweler by trade for a long time.
Oh, wow.
There came a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, well, the economy went downhill badly. I mean, it was really bad. I mean, we went from, selling Piagets to repairing Rolexes. But there came a point where I said, "This is not who I am. This is not what I want to do." And when I walked out for good.
Absolutely. And when you start saying in any profession, any relationship, regardless if it be romantic or not, when you start saying, "What am I doing here?"
Mhm.
and you can't get an answer, you know, back, it's time to go.
It is.
And
Years ago, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm gonna
that's
do it
okay.
anyway. Years ago, my very first business coach was a lady, and I really didn't know how to do it because I'd never had a coach. And she was very nice, very quiet. And I knew I was whining. I was whining a lot. I couldn't even stand me. And there came a day where I just knew she was very quiet. I said, "This is the day she's gonna cut me loose and tell me to quit talking to her, talking at her." And I said, "Are you still there?" Because I was just waiting. And she said, "Denise." I went, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "What are you tolerating?" That changed my
Wow.
life. Yeah, long time ago. I think about it every single day. What are you tolerating? Some things I'm like, "Oh, no, you don't." And I put a big old, I'm an introvert, big time introvert. And my boundaries are very, very strong. So and I'll tell you, and I'll tell anybody who asks me if I'll tell you no twice. There is no third time. That's a boundary. But I had to learn to, lighten my boundaries if I needed to, or just enforce the heck out of them. Because if I'm wasting my time with you, or worse, with myself, I am doing myself a huge disservice. So what are you tolerating? I ask myself every day. I also ask myself, you'll have these random thoughts, and I'll catch myself saying, and I talk out loud a lot. I live alone. I can get by with it. The cats don't mind it. But I'll say out loud, "Denise, is that true? Is that really true?" And the answer is almost, heck no, it's not true. Knock it off.
That is so true because I mean, and I love that I've not ever said, "What are you tolerating?"
Yeah, ask yourself. It'll surprise the
I mean,
heck out of you.
yeah, I do need to start asking. That's a great, great thing to ask yourself. So, yeah. I think I lost you.
I keep losing you somehow. Anyway,
There you go. I got you.
I
Go
hope
ahead.
we didn't lose it all. But
No.
when you say purpose, now we've talked about purpose and we've talked about passion, and I wanna go back to, you're working with, prisoners. So did Bengay for a long time. One of the things that he told me many years ago was, a prisoner asked to meet with him, and it happened to be what was his name? Charles Manson. I still my stomach
Oh,
still clenches. Yeah, he spent several hours with Charles Manson. Scary. But when you're talking about the prisoners that you work with, it was clear they didn't have a plan at all.
no,
So how do you
no.
help them?
One thing that you have to do is in any time you have to have a plan, you have to have a goal. What is this plan going to get you? And we're told this as kids, when you grow up, my dad did the same thing with me. When you leave the house, you're going to have a job, or you're going to be in college, or you're going to be in
Mhm.
the military. Okay. You're not going to be here. And I know everybody's heard that. I mean, everybody, at least in our generation has heard that. And so we go and we take those three options and we go. All right. We just go with those three options. Now, the thing is I mean, even college, I've been teaching college now for 19 years. Even college, it doesn't really talk to you about your purpose. It talks to you about your major, because your major is going to get you a job to contribute to the overall society. And there you go. You're done. So here's your major. You're going to be an accountant. And then they have career services. You're going to do career services. They give you a line of jobs. They'll ask you, they will give you the choice. Where do you want to live? And most colleges, especially if they're state colleges, they want you to stay within the state, because those are the people that are giving the money to keep these colleges running. And so they say, okay, well, you can work for this business. Again, this business is giving money to our endowment. You can work for this company because this company is employing most of our students when they get out, or you can work for this one. Where do you want to go? So then what do? Our options get limited again. And that's what happens. And so we're told what to do. Inmates, no different. They get told what to do too, because what happens with inmates? You have people that are outside, especially, and a lot of inmates are, the first thing you hear is they were born in a really, really bad environment. The environment could be they had an abusive father and an alcoholic mother, something like that. And then what happens then is you have somebody that comes in and they give them options. And these are older people most of the time. And these are people who don't really care about their livelihood. Sometimes they get him into gangs, and sometimes they get him into just doing really dumb things, selling drugs, doing something really, really dumb. And the reason for that is because they are wanting you to live out their plan. And so that's what they do. And they get these people locked up and put away because they don't have a plan, and they never have. Someone tells them what to do. Then, to make it even worse, is now they're told what to wear. They're told when they get to eat. They're told when they wake up. They're told exactly what they can have as far as TVs. They don't even have the choice to know what type of toothpaste they're going to use. So now they're again living by another plan, but this time they're living by the plan of the state. So then when you get out, most of these individuals have never, ever, ever had to make a decision for themselves. And then they're supposed to make a decision for themselves.
And
And
they
then
have
you
no
wonder
clue.
why that they don't know. They don't
Right.
even know how to decide. So what I used to do is I used to teach the inmates how to decide for yourself. What do you want to do? And you would get a lot of silence, because you know what? What should I do? I'll never forget. I told somebody, what kind of car do you want when you get out? Well, what kind of cars are available? I'm not going to answer that question. There's so many cars available. I don't know how to answer that question. Okay. And you just answer questions like that. I was watching a show King Charles was just here in the United States.
Mhm.
And there was I don't, it was a show that talked a little bit about King Charles. And it talked about how King Charles, he is a very intelligent man. I'm never going to say anything bad about the king, but he is also someone who has never, ever had to make a decision on his own. And so this person who was doing this interview used to work for Prince Charles when he was a prince, when he was a young prince. And the prince literally, from what this person said, dropped a letter from the queen, just dropped it. It fell off of a table and into a trash bin. And Prince Charles was sitting right by the trash bin. I mean, he was like within, I mean, I can just lean over, reach over, pick it up, and get it out of the trash bin. That's it. He literally called a servant that was in another room and said, I seem to have dropped this letter in the trash bin. Can you fetch it for me?
Oh my.
Now, we say that that sounds horrible. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that would have been the day that I'm going to sit there and say, hey, 1776 was right, because I'm sure going to revolt too. All right. I am not getting anything out of the trash bin for you when you're standing right there. He did get it out of the trash bin, put it back on the table, and this, that, and the other, but that's what he did. But if you think about it, they just said that he never, I mean, they folded his underwear. They did all of these things for the king or for the prince at the time that he did not have any way of deciding for himself. Now, I want you to think about this. That's the king who was not even able to reach into a trash bin. Think about someone who, on the other extreme, where people have always been making decisions for them as well. I mean, if you look at our society, especially now since after 18 or not 18, since 1968, since the war on poverty in 1968, when that happened, there are a lot of things that the government stepped in and took away your right, or I shouldn't say took away your right. I shouldn't say that's wrong for me to say. Let me back that up. That there are a lot of programs that were implemented that created learned helplessness.
Oh, yeah. Look, in the Deep South, we know all about those.
Exactly. And so now you have people who have great talent who don't even know how to realize that. So they are just like King Charles, but on the other end of the spectrum.
You know
They
what I
can't
find
do
interesting
certain
about
things.
yeah, I agree with you. What I find interesting about him is, and this is just my personal opinion, I've watched the whole royal family for a long time. I find them fascinating, sometimes kinda icky, but mostly fascinating. And I think he's a heck of a businessman. He's a great farmer. I'm not so sure that he's a good king.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. He does have his I think if he were left alone to be a farmer, he would and he is making waves. He's doing a lot. But, yeah, let's move away from poor Charles, you know?
Yeah. I'm not, and I just want people to know in England, if you're listening to this, we do not dog your king. We think
No.
he's a nice guy, but
Yes, yeah.
yes, I'm just using that as an example,
He's not a leader.
of
Let's
everything.
just leave it there. He's not a leader.
There you go. Mhm.
So, I wanted to ask you, 'kay, we're talking about all kinds of things. We have
Mhm.
been talking about passion, persistence, purpose. When you and what does planning look like in real life for somebody like your inmates who's starting from scratch? How do you help them? Because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Right. It's always like it's planning. I will start out with something simple, with how do you get to the store? And I'll talk to them about it. And they'll say, well, you drive, it's on such and such street. Okay, great. How do you
Where did
get
the
there?
car come from?
Exactly. And then what you're doing is you're designing everything. So when the end goal was to get to the store. And so now we have to do all the things that get to the store. And one of the things I even say, all right, you're going to the store, you're going to buy a TV. All right. You don't want to end up in prison again. Right. So you're not stealing the TV. How are you getting the money? Okay. And that's something that we do for planning. Planning is literally thinking forward and backward at the same time. Planning is also being able to make modifications on the fly. That is something that, as people, I talk about, and this is, Netflix and Blockbuster Video. Blockbuster Video had an opportunity to buy Netflix. The people who came up with the theory of Netflix said, hey, right now we're mailing DVDs, but I have a buddy of mine who can think he can utilize the internet to now all you have to do is get it and they can just stream it right in onto your computer or onto your screen because we have a device where you can actually put it on your screen. The people at Netflix kicked them out of their office. I'm
I
sorry, of
know.
Blockbuster. Yes.
Right, I know I remember that story, and I'm still just flabbergasted
Yeah.
by it.
And the greatest thing about it is they actually had the because Netflix, they don't know how to win properly. Obviously, or actually, they're sore winners. They actually came up with an actual very funny movie about that on Netflix. You need to watch it. I forgot the name of it. I did see it once and it was funny. But and that's what they did. They actually came up with a movie of this is what happened. And so but at the time, Blockbuster, when Netflix was introducing this revolutionary idea at the time, they actually Blockbuster had a great plan with their DVDs, with their video cassettes, with all those things. And they had a good plan. But the thing is you have to be able to modify that plan based on things that are going to happen, based on things that could happen, based on things that are going to happen to you as well. You can't keep the same plan. You have to learn how to modify. You could keep the same
Right.
destination, but you have to modify that plan and you have to always be mindful. Some things that I tell the inmates to do, and I also do this myself. I will do something, and if it didn't work, it's actually a benefit because I say, okay, what did work? What could work better? Let's go ahead and go back to the drawing board. I'm not going to do the same thing, not the same exact thing. There might be some parts of the plan that worked very well, but I'm not going to go right back to the same thing that we were doing. I talk about sports all the time. I love sports. And so the teams that fail are the teams that are predictable, the things that try the same things. Being a Buffalo man, I'm from Buffalo, New York. And they came up with a statistic, or the news people, the sportscasters said, hey, Buffalo does this 63% of the time on first down. So I started watching games. And they did. They did it like 63% of the time. So once you say that after week 7, maybe you should change your plan because everybody knows what you're going to do. They know there's a 37% chance you're not going to do that, but there's a 60% chance you are. And you know what? I think they actually went even higher. It went from 63% to like 74% by the time the season was over. And we all know what happened. They didn't go to the Super Bowl and the coach got fired because they were not able to change a plan. You need to be able to change your plan. The worst place to be, I don't care if it's at a home, I don't care if it's at a business, an organization, anywhere, is when you hear someone say, that's the way we've always done.
Oh, that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing you
Worst thing
could
you can
say
hear.
or hear. And, we were talking about the car, when these guys get out, "Well, I'm gonna get a car." Okay. How are you going to get the car? How are you going to fund the car? Are you going to get a driver's license? How are you going to take care of insurance? Have you planned any of this? Or is your mama gonna, drive you back and forth all the time? That's not gonna work long.
No, it's not. And the thing is long-term planning and short-term planning are very important. They work hand in hand. And sometimes you do. Mom's gonna have to drive me for the next couple weeks until
Sure.
I get, you know, and then once mom's gonna drive me, but out of my paycheck, this is where I'm gonna put away to make sure that I don't have to worry about that. You know,
Mhm.
and so those are the things that you have to do when it comes to planning. But planning is it says it in my book, 4 P's, never be married to your plan. And that is
Yeah.
don't marry it. We were talking about that in the very beginning. Learn how to see other plans. If that, instead of seeing other people, see other plans and see what's going on. And also have a good mentor. It's like what you were telling me earlier about the what are you able to tolerate? That's something like, wow. Okay, that's a good way for me to change things. Here I am trying to talk to everybody about the four P's. And I'm like, whoa, I learned something in this podcast as well. Because now maybe I need to answer that question with certain things that are going on in business and in my life.
You know, ever since I heard her say that to me, and honestly, I was waiting for her to say, Denise, I can't stand you. We gotta go. We're parting ways. But she didn't, God bless her. But when she asked me that, and I'll tell you, I was going from close, well, I'm literally equidistant from Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Literally, I got clobbered by both of them. So I'm down by the Gulf of America. We have water everywhere in Southwest Louisiana. We are
Mhm.
surrounded by water. But I was driving with my best friend to Atlanta, Georgia. Her sister lived there before she passed. That's a 10-hour drive any way you cut it. And then you hit Peachtree Street and you're lost. So that's another 4 or 5 hours. So we were talking, we were listening to, Wayne Dyer, and we were listening to all kinds of different things. And I asked her, I was telling her about this with my coach, and she said, say that again. And I said, I'm always asking myself, what am I tolerating? And she went very quiet and she got to thinking. So we're both constantly asking each other and ourselves, what are we tolerating? And then followed by, is it true? Is it really true? But it keeps you moving forward because then you can clear your brain or your mind and say, that's garbage, or as we say in the South, that's garbage. We're not gonna tolerate that anymore, and you move away from it quickly. You can move very quickly once you have identified it.
Absolutely.
So, Trunis, I can't
Mhm.
talk no more. Can you share a story from I can't. Can you share a story from the book that best shows the 4 Ps working together?
The best story that shows the four P's work together, other than my own story that I share, um, there are a couple stories. One of the stories that I think that the four P's working together was a story of a student that I had. Uh, it was years ago now. It's probably 15 years ago. I always used to start this course. It was the very beginning. It was like the introduction, college orientation, and everybody had to teach it at least once a semester or once a year. So I'm teaching this course, and it was a bunch of different majors. You had nursing, business, you name it, they were all in there. So first thing I did in the course, in order to make everybody feel nice and loose, I would say, "Hey, what's your name and what's your major?" And then I would ask them why. And it's funny how the four P's, this is long before I came up with the four P's. I guess it's always been in the bottom of my, it's somewhere in my heart or in my mind because I've always used to bring this up. So I saw this lady. She was from, I think she was from Nigeria. And so I walked over. I said, "Hey, what do you want? What's your name?" So she gave me her name. And I said, "What's your major?" She gave me her major. She says, I'm going to be a nurse. And then I said, "Why do you want to be a nurse?" And she said, "Because my mom's a nurse."
So
I
it's
said, "Why do
legacy?
you?" Exactly. So I said, "Why do you want to be a nurse?" She says, "Because my grandmother was a nurse." I said, "I'm going to
Definitely
ask you
legacy.
exactly. I said, "I'm going to ask you a third time. Why do you want to be a nurse?" And she was quiet because she knew that I knew that there was something going on. And she stopped and she looked at me. Her eyes started welling up with tears, Denise. And she said, "I want to be a teacher."
There you go. But she didn't know
And
how to disappoint her
mm-mm.
family.
No, I said, "Then why are you going to be a nurse?" And I said, I told her, I said, "You know what? You will probably be a really, really good nurse because you are extremely loyal. You're very smart." I just met her, but I knew she was. You could tell by the way she was talking. I said, "You're doing all of these things to do all the right things in life." And I said, "One day," I said, "you do seem like you're very caring." I said, "But one day when you're about 25 years into being a nurse, you're going to be that bitter person that really is that mean nurse that no one wants to see." And she goes, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because you are going to start realizing when it's too late to change or seemingly too late to change that you really should have been a teacher. And you're going to be bitter and you're going to be mad and you're going to have regret and you're going to be mad at people that you're not supposed to be mad at because the only person you need to be mad at is yourself." And I said, "And that's what's going to happen." And you know what? She went the very next day and she went downstairs and she changed her major before it was too late. And now to this day, she's a Facebook friend of mine. And to this day, she is a teacher. She is a teacher in the Detroit area. And every time I see her on Facebook, she is smiling and she is happy. And she's now teaching high school. So she started as an elementary school student, teacher, and now she is a high school teacher and she teaches English of all things. She's a English lit. She always wanted to do that. And she is just phenomenal at what she does. And I'm
See,
very proud of her, but she's a,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I was gonna say these are the stories we need to hear because you're right, we're trained early. I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to be a teacher. I was gonna be an astronaut. Then I was going to be an archaeologist, but I hate sand, so that was never gonna happen. But, you know, I don't want sand under my nails, ick. But it's we do hear those voices, those family or familial expectations, and they're not always right for us. In fact, I'm going to say they're rarely right for us because we are individuals and we do have our own hopes, dreams, purposes, what we really, really, really want to do and what we really, really don't want to do. And when you choose that path that's not really going to serve your purpose, it's going to hurt.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. And again, people do, they grow and you get there is a there's a time in life where you do get really bitter because you knew exactly what you could have done and you always think about what could have been. And it gets bad at that time.
And what would my legacy be? Because at that point, you can ask, what legacy would I have left had I gone down a different road? What legacy am I going to leave now, if any? And that's
Mm.
something I think bothers a lot of people. Do I have a legacy? And too many people, I have said every once in a while, they'll say, well, I don't think so. Well, how sad is that?
You are so right.
So, what is one common mistake that people make when they're trying to find themselves? When she found her way because you helped her, but so often we're just kind of wandering around, touching stuff, going, "Well, I like this. Ooh, shiny object over here," or "Oh, my mama said to do this." What what should they be looking at really?
Don't look at other people, look at yourself.
Exactly.
And that is the major problem that we all have. Think about all of the dumb things we've all done trying to impress other people. And
Or even
you-
ourselves. We lie to ourselves all day, all night, and we just do. It's common.
and if you think about what you want to do, where you want to be, how you want to get there, and you really, really, that's what I said in the very beginning. Go have a date with yourself. It's okay not to, a lot of people are like, I need to do this. I need to have a whole bunch of money. I need to have a Mercedes and a Lexus, and I need to have a Jaguar in my front yard, and then or my driveway. I need to have this. I need to have a swimming pool. I need to have a vacation home in just south of St. Augustine. I need all these things going on. And that's what I need to do. And that's how I'm going to be successful because that's how everybody else is successful. That is I mean, everybody talks about that's the American dream. And in a way it is. But the American dream is actually, if you think about it, the American dream is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And
And
remember, this
health, be
pursuit, it's
healthy. Yep.
exactly. Exactly. And so you need to pursue happiness and have your happiness, not everybody else's happiness. You need to pursue yours. And I think that is the key to finding all four P's, purpose, planning, passion, and persistence.
And we're coming up on hurricane season in the deep south right now. It's mud season. We get a lot of rain this time of year, but this is also wedding season coming up. And I hear this, I see it on Twitter, I see it here, there, and yonder. Oh, as soon as we're married and we're in our first home, we're going to be happy. Why aren't you happy now? That just bugs the heck out of me. What do you mean you're going to be happy?
Exactly. I'll
Does
tell you
that
what
make
people
any
say.
sense to you? It doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
It doesn't. You should be happy now. You're right. And
Yes.
that's the thing. Or if this happens, we're going to be happy. If that
Right,
happens, we're going
right.
to be happy.
It's gonna
When
depend
we
on
have
this
our
day
first
in
kid,
May. I know.
yeah.
Yeah,
When we have our first kid, we're going to be happy, dude. That's not the case. And
No.
the other thing is there's a difference, and I do write this in my book. There's a difference between joy and happiness. Right now it's like, my kids bring me a lot of joy. They bring me tons of joy. It's consistent. Every time the phone rings, now since they're all grown, every time the phone rings and I see one of their names pop up, a smile comes across my face. Why? Because my kids are calling. Now, there are some kids that are calling me to say, "Hey, I just want to see how you're doing, Dad." And then there are some that say, "Hey, I need a couple dollars." Okay. So there's a thing about, I go back and think about times, I had to go in and their room was filthy, or the times they missed curfew, or the times they, try to challenge something one of the rules of the house. Those days did not make me happy. However, I will tell you right now, I would take every single one of those days back because of all the joy. I would never want any of those days ever to change because they gave me joy. And that was part of the package. And when people look at it, a lot of people will leave their spouse because she no longer makes me happy or she no longer does this. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I've never been married to me, but clearly my track record's kind of jacked up. So I'm going to tell you right now, it was it happiness or was it joy? I hope I give you a lot of joy. Okay. But I know that every day I'm not going to make you happy.
No, and the thing
We're
about
going to have,
joy is it happens in moments, and those are the big moments you actually do remember. Happiness is kinda bland, it's like, "Oh," really, when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm happy," you're content. That's a whole different thing. But
mhm,
when you say, "I have joy," write it down because they're
absolutely.
fleeting. They keep coming, and don't lose them.
Absolutely. That is so true.
I
So
wanted to
true.
know. Ooh, we are gonna run out of time pretty soon.
Okay.
Who is this book really for? Students, entrepreneurs, professionals, or anybody in transition? Who is this book? Who do you want to read this book and take something from it today?
All three. I really do. I know that's a horrible answer, but no, seriously, I want you. This book is, when I wrote this, I actually had inmates and students in mind. But if you, when you go deeper and deeper into it, they get into really deep long-term, almost, I hate to say this, middle-age thought processes of the future. And I think that anybody can read this book, anybody can relate to this book, anybody going through a transition, anybody who wants to go through a transition. You really do need to get this book.
Well, you were talking about planning and, Netflix, I think it was. They had a good plan and all of them have a good plan, but I wrote down, "Always be looking around corners."
Mhm.
You have to have a pretty fair idea of what could change very quickly. Remember COVID? Just things can change. It can just your stomach just drops down to your feet and doesn't come back up. It
Absolutely.
You have to constantly be looking at your own self, how you perceive the world, and then look around corners and try to look at what that future is going to look for you from all different angles. Because if you don't, you're gonna get hit by a bus one day because you're not paying attention. I hope that makes
That is true.
sense.
That is
I
true. Keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I wanted to ask you, you what is one exercise from the book that listeners could try today?
The best exercise from this book is absolutely get to know yourself. And that
That's
is
the tough part, isn't it?
it is. It is a tough part. But once you get to know yourself, you're going to get to know your skills. You're going to get to know what you really want to do. There's a lot of things that you could be good at doing, but you don't want to do them. I was a good administrator for college, but I did not want to do it. So what else am I good at doing? So I can do that and pick that up. And also, you really want to know the real you, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. And so, yes, that is the best exercise. And that is something I wrote in the back part of the book. A pastor actually told me, you got to go out somewhere and you got to go somewhere where no one sees you. And you really have to sit there and think about, give yourself some time. And that's how you really build the person that you want to be is giving yourself time. Spending time with yourself is important.
Silence is my friend. I live in a very quiet world and it's deliberate. Because I'm thinking all the time. I'm an autodidact. I break things, I put them back together. Quiet is the most important thing for me, and I learned that a long time ago, and anytime I try to go against that, owie, I'm not happy, and the
Mhm.
people around me are not happy either.
Exactly.
So you have to know who you are. Where before I let you go, and I need you to come back because this has been a big conversation. I think there's more for you to share. So would you come
Cool.
back later in the year?
I will. You know that. Absolutely. You don't have to
Okay,
ask
good.
twice.
Well, I do it on the radio, so you can't tell me no. It's very tricky. So, but thank you. I wanted before I let you go, what do you want the audience to really take away from this conversation? And where can they find you? Where can they find your book? Where can they find your I think you have a blog. I know you have a podcast. Let us know where we can connect with you.
You can find me on the podcast. I'll start with that one first. It's called The Four Ps of You with Trunnis Goggins II. I have great guests on there, and I want you to be on my guest. And I'm saying this on your radio station, so you're gonna, whatever you say back, and
Oh,
we'll know it's
okay.
up. There you
I'll
go.
do it.
Um,
Thank you.
Thank you. The other thing, you could find me on Veritas Publishing House. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook. Unfortunately, my name Trunnis Goggins. There's not many of us out there, so you can definitely find me there. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere. You can find me. You can find my book. My book is on Veritas Publishing House. It's also on your standard Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on Google Play, and things like that as well. We are now doing, yeah, so you can find me in any of those areas.
And I definitely want to talk with you offline about Veritas. So, listen, everybody, thank you for joining us today. We explored Trunnis Goggins' powerful 4P framework: purpose for direction, passion for energy, planning for structure, and persistence to keep going through challenges. And we all have challenges. Some are good, some are bad. But to me, if you don't have challenges, I don't know what the heck you're doing. You're just sitting on a couch somewhere. So, whether you're in transition or seeking focus, this conversation delivers practical tools for intentional living. And if personal growth is important to you, you don't want to miss it. Trunus, thank you so much. This has been enormously helpful to me as a podcaster and just as a human being.
Thank you.